After 8 children and 80 years of watching human nature, I've come to one conclusion most psychologists don't like. Nature beats nurture. You can spend your whole life teaching your kids about thrift, patience, and discipline, but if it's not in their wiring, you're just lecturing a cat about delayed gratification. Some people are born prudent, others are born broke. I once met a 95-year-old woman wearing a coat older than most hedge fund managers. She still lived in the same small house she bought half a century ago and still clipped grocery coupons every week. What most people didn't know was that she owned over 4,000 shares of Berkshire Hathaway, worth billions. She never took a finance course, never studied investing, but she had something most people lack today: instinctive discipline. Meanwhile, her grandchildren drove vintage cars, wore diamond watches, and thought they were clever because they could afford nostalgia. But they weren't clever. They were spending the prudence of someone long dead. Capitalism rewards good judgment, yes, but it also rewards good genes. And sometimes it punishes both when you hand them to idiots. People love to think they can train themselves into rationality. They read a few books, listen to a few podcasts about money mindset, and think they've cracked the code. But rationality isn't a seminar. It's a state of being. You don't learn it once. You become it slowly, through repetition and failure. The market doesn't destroy you. Your emotions do. Fear compresses your IQ faster than alcohol, and greed does it even faster. Emotional discipline, in my view, is the highest form of compound interest. Money doesn't change who you are. It amplifies it. If you're reckless with $100, you'll be reckless with $1 million. If you're anxious when you're poor, you'll be paranoid when you're rich. The numbers change. The nature doesn't. Americans love to glorify delayed gratification. Save now, enjoy later. It sounds noble. But I've watched people delay life until there's nothing left to enjoy. They skip vacations, ignore sunsets, and turn spreadsheets into a religion. That's not prudence. That's fear pretending to be virtue. Patience doesn't mean waiting forever. It means waiting intelligently. There's a difference between delayed gratification and delayed life. And if you delay life long enough, you'll forget how to live it. Frugality built my foundation, but perspective kept me sane. Saving out of fear isn't investing, it's hoarding insecurity. I've met billionaires who couldn't enjoy dinner without calculating cost per calorie. They weren't eating, they were optimizing. That's not intelligence. That's a mental disorder with a spreadsheet. When I was younger, I told my kids, eat hamburgers now so you can eat steak later. It made sense back then, when money grew faster than inflation, but today, I'd tell them something different. What if the steak never comes? What if your health fails, or the government finds a new way to tax your patience? Then you'll learn that saving without purpose isn't prudence, it's postponed disappointment. The world has changed. The systems that once rewarded savers now quietly punish them. The banks take your money, pay you nothing, and lend it out 10 times over. You call it saving. They call it inventory. And guess who's winning? Between reckless spending and obsessive saving lies a thin line called sanity. People think success feels like victory. It doesn't. It feels like relief, like surviving your own mistakes long enough to see the world prove you right. And if you can do that without losing your integrity, you've already won. Success isn't about conquering emotions, it's about cooperating with them. When I was young, I believed intelligence would save me. Now I know calmness does. That's why I've always kept cash, not out of fear, but for freedom. Cash buys you calm, and calm buys you clarity. You can't plan during chaos. You plan for chaos while it's still quiet. That's how Berkshire survived every storm. 3 legs of a solid stool: reputation, cash, and patience. Reputation brings opportunity. Cash gives you the ability to act. Patience lets you wait until the odds tilt your way. Remove one, and the chair collapses. Happiness, like wealth, compounds slowly. It doesn't come from consumption. It comes from competence, purpose, and relationships that aren't transactional. Real wealth begins when you stop measuring your worth by accumulation and start measuring it by elimination. Eliminate envy. Eliminate comparison. Eliminate the illusion that more will fix less. If you're not happy with 50,000, you won't be happy with 50 million. Happiness doesn't scale linearly. It's arithmetic. When your desires shrink to fit your reality, you've already won. I once told a young man, "Spend less than you earn, but don't make a religion out of saving." Money is a tool, and tools are useless if you never use them. You're not a monk. You're a human being. Buy the book. Take the trip. Order the good wine. Just don't confuse consumption with meaning. Experiences enrich you. Ego decorates your stupidity. People think money buys freedom. It doesn't. Clarity does. When you stop needing, you become free. Warren and I live simply, not to make a statement, but because simplicity sharpens thought. You don't need marble floors to think clearly, just quiet and a functioning brain. Every financial crash reveals the same thing: the overleveraged and the overconfident, both ending up broke and confused. Meanwhile, the boring guy with cash walks in, buys their assets for pennies, and looks like a genius. He's not a genius, he's just not stupid. That's what I call rational joy, the quiet satisfaction of not being an idiot for too long. It doesn't sell books, but it works. Rational joy means being content without being complacent, disciplined without being dull, generous without being gullible. And it's the only kind of happiness that lasts. People think legacy is about buildings and headlines. It's not. It's about habits that outlive you. If you've taught someone to think clearly, save wisely, and stay calm in chaos, you've done more good than most politicians or gurus ever will. Clear thinking spreads quietly, but compounds loudly. Just like capital. If there's one lesson I'd like to leave behind after all these years, the saving, the spending, the crashes, the comebacks, it's this: be rational long enough to deserve a peaceful life. Not a flashy one, not a perfect one, a peaceful one. Because peace, my friend, is what money was supposed to buy all along. And if you've reached that point, congratulations. You've already won the only game that truly matters, the game of clarity.